Prime Minister Narendra Modi says a new world order is emerging and it's gravitating towards India. He added the globe now sees India as a trusted partner. And the blockbuster of the cricketing calendar is officially off. Pakistan confirms it will not take the field against India during the upcoming T20 Cricket World Cup. We look at the possible repercussions for mixing politics and sport. Also, one of the front-runners in Bangladesh's election releases its manifesto for a safe and humane country. The Islamist Jamaat-e-Islami party claims it will empower women and prioritize Sharia in its state governance. Hello and welcome. You watching RT India. I'm Osama Shab, live from New Delhi. We have a packed bulletin ahead with major world developments, including our top story. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, he has told India's parliament that a new world order is taking shape. He stressed the center of gravity is shifting towards India, describing New Delhi as a Vishwamitra, a trusted friend of the world.
The world is moving towards a new world order. There was a world order after the Second World War, and now a new world order is in the making. And I'm very happy to see that the tilt is towards India. In terms of Vishwamitra, as Vishwabandhu, India is a trusted partner of many nations.
And RT India correspondent Vinayak Dikshit joins us here in the studio. Vinayak, what exactly did the Prime Minister have to say in the Parliament?
Right, Osama. So the Indian Prime Minister talked today in the upper house of the Indian Parliament, and he talked about something very interesting, which is an emerging new world order. But before we get to that, let's talk about what he said about the Indian economy and India's emerging role in the global world order. He said that India is the ray of hope that can provide solutions to the world's problems right now. Talking about the Indian economy, he said that India's growth is very high among major economies with low inflation, be it in any sector, and that India is very confident in each of those sectors. Then he talks about how the world is moving towards a new emerging global world order. He talked about how there was a global world order emerging after the Second World War, which was the era of the Cold War and bipolar alliances. Then he says that this new global world order, which is emerging now, is very much tilted towards India. How? To back this up, he mentioned India's recent engagements with a variety of nations, how India is being viewed as a trusted friend, a Vishwamitra, and a partner by major countries across the world. Now, we, in the very recent past, saw India making a variety of trade deals with a variety of nations, which, to be honest, did help India gain significant capital in the geopolitical arena. The Prime Minister then said that India is making future-ready trade deals. He mentioned the 9 trade deals that India has very recently made with 9 different nations, including the one which actually earned the moniker the mother of all trade deals, which was the trade deal with the European Union.
India is signing future-ready trade deals with several countries. We have signed trade deals with 9 big countries in a span of a very short time. We signed the mother of all deals with 27 EU nations together.
Now, we saw the European Union trade deal being signed with India back on the 26th of January when EU leaders were visiting India for the Republic Day celebrations. A variety of deals were signed under that very deal, 0% tariffs across major sectors. So people are assuming when it actually comes into effect, this will be quite beneficial for both the parties involved in the deal. Now, he said that they are trying to clean the image of India in the eyes of the world and how India is on board the Reform Express, basically. The Global South, interestingly, also found a mention in the Prime Minister's speech today, and he said that how the whole world is basically talking about the Global South and how India itself is emerging as the voice of the Global South in a variety of multinational forums. Big nations are excited to make trade deals with India. That's what the Prime Minister said. We already talked about the trade deal with the European Union, but again, Osama, let's not forget to address the biggest elephant in the room, which is the trade deal that India made with the United States after days and months of painstaking negotiations. The Prime Minister also made a mention about that.
Powerful nations are keen to build trade relations with India. Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has given details on the EU trade deal and the US trade deal. And now the whole world is in awe of the deal and appreciating it. The trade deal with the EU convinced the world that stability would return. After the trade deal with the United States, the world was convinced that the once stable India-US trade relations would now pick up pace further.
Now, Osama, talking about the trade deal with the US, the Prime Minister said that the whole world was in awe of the trade deal that India made with the United States and how the world is convinced that there is finally stability in the world. Now, talking about the trade deal with the United States, we saw that tariffs on India were significantly reduced from 50% to 18%, which, let's be honest, is very beneficial for a variety of Indian businesses, to say the least. Now, that pretty much sums up the remarks that the Prime Minister made today in the Indian Parliament.
All right, Vinayak Dixit, thank you very much for getting us all those details. Now, India has declared it will always put the needs of its population first when it comes to energy security, and that its choice regarding where to buy oil will be determined by price. Here's what New Delhi had to say.
So far as India's energy security or energy sourcing is concerned, the government has stated publicly on several occasions, including me here, that ensuring the energy security of 1.4 billion Indians is the supreme priority of the government. Diversifying our energy sourcing in keeping with objective market conditions and evolving international dynamics is at the core of our strategy to ensure this. All of India's decisions are taken and will be taken with this in mind.
Meanwhile, Russia has also weighed in on this, with Moscow saying it's comfortable with India diversifying trade. The Russian Foreign Ministry also acknowledged that India's decisions, they are business-based.
It's a matter of foreign economic cooperation that New Delhi is guided exclusively by national interests, making sovereign decisions based on commercial expediency. We have no reason to believe that our Indian friends have revised their approach. We remain convinced that India's purchase of Russian hydrocarbons is beneficial to both countries and contributes to maintaining stability in the international energy market. We are ready to continue close cooperation in this area with our partners in India.
But the big question at this point is, what are the alternatives to Russian oil and how feasible are they? India's push to diversify crude oil imports has brought about a new set of challenges. Sourcing oil from the Middle East could expose New Delhi to higher crude prices, supply uncertainty, and elevated geopolitical risk driven by security concerns. The imports from America, they come with different challenges. Its shale oil involves longer shipping routes and increased transport costs. As far as Venezuela is concerned, Venezuelan crude continues to face reliability issues due to weak oil infrastructure, smaller output than Russia, and along persistent payment complications which are linked to sanctions. Now, African suppliers such as Nigeria and Angola, they are also prone to supply disruptions, which is caused by militancy, oil theft, and maintenance outages. Its price track Brent crude benchmarks too, making them less reliable partners for a nation like India. In fact, on paper, India's diversification strategy, it reduces dependence on any single supplier, but in reality, it also increases exposure to higher costs and sustained risk. In fact, earlier, we spoke to geopolitical expert Rohit Dev, who believes India-Russia ties, they will remain strong because Moscow, it respects New Delhi's autonomy.
At the G2G level, it has been the most, trusted partnership which India has had. So while we have a strategic partnership and the only one in the world, plus two with Russia and US, you have seen how we have gone south with the Americans and how our north is steady with the Russians. So having said that, I think this entire talk about the energy sector is a little flawed in terms of the tweet by the President of the United States of America, primarily because that he also understands that national interest of any country is supreme. Now, India doesn't only need some kind of a fallback plan with a a reliable partner, but India needs oil in quantity. In qualities, it can refine and sustain itself, and also in terms of price points, because that is driven by the markets. And like you just brought out the Brent index, if you see that our intake from the Russians, which has increased in the last 3 years, has also been due to the discounted pricing of the oil. So long as the discount exists, generally anywhere on this planet, India is going to look at the geopolitical situation and some kind of a long-term sustainable supply chain to evolve. In case of America today, that trust needs to be rebuilt, and the onus is on the American side. Whereas on the Russian and Indian side, I think we have a deep trust which doesn't have to be spoken on any fora, right from the cultural roots which we had to the trade today and to forward-looking technology innovations and collaboration, co-designing and co-development. I think we have still many miles to go together, and that is where the promise lies.
And ahead of Diplomats' Day in Russia on February 10th, Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov, he has given an exclusive interview to RT's The Sanchez Effect. He spoke about Washington attempting to boot Russian oil companies from Venezuela and Trump's energy pressure campaign against India.
The sanctions all remain in place. Moreover, very harsh sanctions have been imposed against our largest oil companies, Lukoil, Rosneft, for the first time. This happened a couple of weeks after the meeting in Anchorage, at which...
How does that make you feel?
The president was surprised by this and spoke about it in an interview. Once again, we parted ways in Anchorage on the understanding that Russia supported the United States' proposal for a comprehensive settlement of the Ukrainian crisis. And after that, we expected the United States to confirm it, to say, well, now you have agreed to our proposal. Let's announce something, convene a conference, sign something, form a peace council. But instead, sanctions on Lukoil and Rosneft suddenly followed. Now, following the developments in Venezuela, they're openly trying to push our companies from Venezuela. India is being banned from buying Russian oil. At least that's what was announced. There appears to be a worldwide ban both on oil and gas supplies. They say Russian oil and gas will be replaced by American oil and American liquefied natural gas. Just recently, a plan on Cuba was adopted. You'll certainly find it interesting. And it says that a state of emergency has been declared due to the threat Cuba poses to US interests in the Caribbean, including due to Russia's hostile and malicious policies. Well, the bright future of our economic and investment cooperation doesn't really square with that.
Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif, he has claimed sports and politics should never mix. He then went on to say that his country will boycott its game with India at the upcoming T20 World Cup.
We have taken a clear stand regarding the T20 World Cup that we will not play the match against India. This is an appropriate decision. We have taken this stand after deliberating on it carefully. There should be no politics in sports.
And earlier we spoke to sports anchor RJ Sami, who said there are no grounds for Pakistan to boycott other than politics, and that it's the players and the fans who suffer.
I would say that define Pakistan in one word, and you have your answer exactly what you said. They take their stance essentially as per the situation governs it in their favor. It's very simple as that. So yes, mixing politics and cricket is exactly what they're doing. From the time this news has come out, I think a couple of days back, it was tweeted across. I think one question I'm failing to understand is that on what grounds is this being done? Because Pakistan said they don't want to play in India. ICC shifted the games to Colombo. Then after that, with the whole Bangladesh fiasco happening and all of that going on, this is completely political. I mean, there is no other way in which the Pakistan government or the PCB or Pakistan as a whole can really define this in any other way. So I don't really understand how is this warranted, and how are they in their heads thinking that if we say this, no one's going to think that politics and cricket are going hand in hand in this. We all know that one of the most anticipated matches of the tournament, of any ICC tournament, is the India-Pakistan game. However, I think that has lost its charm, and Pakistan are kind of pulling this trick at the wrong time, because I think, like Surya Kumar Yadav said right before the Asia Cup finals as well, it's not a contest anymore. However, just for the sake of it and the history behind this rivalry, this definitely holds a special place in the fans' hearts. But I think if this is not happening, I don't think they're going to care. In terms of the broadcasters, right, I'll tell you, if the broadcasters just replay one of the old India-Pakistan matches, that is also going to get them eyeballs. Yes, if you just go back and, just play that match where Virat hits that six, the best shot apparently played in 100 years. Yeah, just play that match over and people are going to sit and watch it. The takeaway in all of this is there are going to be sanctions, 100%. Yeah. The ICC, I think, is already working on it. And a board like PCB, I don't think they can afford it at this point of time. Yeah. They kept on harping about the fact how the PSL is apparently the top league in the world, and now there are players who are not going to come and play there. How do you kind of strengthen that belief that you're trying to put out in the market? Has India ever pulled out of any tournament, irrespective of what the situation is? Even a smaller tournament, when I say smaller tournament, I mean in respect to a World Cup, something like an Asia Cup, it was right after the whole thing that happened with Pakistan on the borders, right? And the whole Operation Sindoor. We still did not pull out. We said we're not going to shake hands, but we still went and played because we wanted to put the sport above everything else. The board just cares about showing off in the world of cricket and in the political world. They just care about showing that, hey, we can take a very strong stand and a very strong call. Pakistan cricket has been in the decline for the last, I would say, 10 years in terms of, selecting. They have gone through controversy after controversy after controversy. One of the controversies was that the right players were not getting selected because the players who were getting selected were related to, members of the board, the coaching staff, etc. Right? Yeah. So for a young Pakistani cricketer, my heart goes out to them, man, honestly.
The Jamaat-e-Islami Party in Bangladesh has unveiled its manifesto ahead of the national elections. Highlighting 26 key focus areas, it's pledged to build a safe and humane Bangladesh through governance based on Islamic law. Local reporter Rashad Ahmed breaks down the manifesto for us.
The Jamaat is indeed a leading party in this election, and that's why there is a lot of interest in what it said in their election manifesto. The Islamic Party has pitched an idea of a safe and humane Bangladesh in its manifesto. At the heart of the document, it has pushed to reorder governance, law, society around Islamic principles. The party promises wide-ranging reform from corruption-free governance and welfare delivery to education, economy, justice, but all anchor these goals to Sharia norms. One of the most consequential proposals is the introduction of distinct Muslim personal law, along with Islamic Sharia, and it will dedicate a high court bench to look after this.
Initiatives will be undertaken to enact a distinct Muslim personal law for Muslims in conformity with Islamic Sharia.
Now, despite the fact that Bangladesh have had 2 female prime ministers and prominent women leaders in the past, but in this election, only 4% women candidates are contesting. Barely 78 out of 2,000 candidates are women, and nearly a third of these are family members of established politicians, business leaders, rather than independent women candidates. Senior leaders of the Jamaat-e-Islami has been defending a ban on women holding top position within the party. The manifesto, however, placed women's safety, dignity, and meaningful participation across all spheres of national life. In a sense, while a manifesto spoke the language of safety, welfare, and reform, it signals a clear shift towards religious-centric governance.
Now, back in August 2024, Gen Z protests shook the streets and brought down the Hasina government in Dhaka. Now, Bangladesh's youth, it faces its biggest test yet at the ballot box.
This was just 20 months ago, days before Bangladesh's longest-serving government, led by Sheikh Hasina, was toppled. The July uprising in 2024 was driven largely by the Gen Z, demanding reform, accountability, and what they called a new Bangladesh.
The student leaders even formed the Nationalist Citizens Party, or NCP, promising to carry that revolutionary spirit into politics. But months later, many young voters say these promises have fallen flat. The interim government, led by Muhammad Yunus, is facing mounting criticism from the same youths who effectively put him in office.
The current government's primary responsibility was to ensure the security of the people through whom the country was reborn. But it has failed to provide that security so far.
There was discrimination everywhere, and that was what our struggle was ultimately against. But we have not seen those expectations fulfilled.
From young people to students and the general public, everyone shared a dream of a Bangladesh with no corruption and no one-party domination. A country where all ethnic groups, all religions, and people would benefit. A win-win situation for everyone. That was the Bangladesh people envisioned. But 1 year after the uprising, that dream has faded significantly.
According to official data, nearly half of Bangladesh voters under the age of 37. Many will cast their votes for the first time in the country's most consequential election in decades.
The youth also demand again more inclusive society where their opinion matters, and also the fact that political parties are responsive to the aspirations of the youth. So whichever political party would manage to connect with the youth in terms of these socio-political and economic aspirations would be able to attract their votes in the coming election.
With the once dominant Awami League banned from contesting, voters have limited options, despite there being more than 50 parties in the running. The frontrunner are the Bangladesh Nationalist Party-led alliance on one side and the Bangladesh Jamaat-e-Islami-fronted coalition on the other. The youth-led National Citizens Party has found itself pushed to the sidelines.
It is not our ideological coalition. It is only political coalition. It is only electoral coalition, and also money. But it's have a aim. We want to gain reform by this coalition.
Bangladesh now stands at a crossroads. For a generation that brought down a strong government through street protest, the ballot box is now their next battlefield. The question is whether the Gen Z will find leaders who truly represent their dreams, or will they be forced to choose a new face for the same old Bangladesh?
Let's now take a look at some of the other stories from around the globe. They're not taking off just yet, but flying taxis, they are taking center stage at Asia's largest air show in Singapore. A new class of electric-powered aircraft are battling to take public transport to new heights. Industry leaders say Asia could be the first market to adopt autonomous air taxis driven by mega-city congestion and evolving regulations. The battle for Buenos Aires pensioners, they have clashed with police in Argentina over reforms. The violence in the capital has been ongoing since President Milei announced spending cuts and fiscal reforms back in 2024. The police used force and tear gas to disperse demonstrators who had gathered outside the Congress building. Reports say several people were detained. And a night of horror in the Philippines as a massive fire ravaged the island of Bongao. Some 1,000 homes, they were destroyed and a mass evacuation ordered of the densely packed area. The flames were exacerbated by high winds and flammable materials. Relief efforts are underway. Iran has confirmed talks with the United States will take place in Oman on Friday. The Middle East remains on edge, though, with America air and naval forces on standby to strike Tehran.
Nuclear talks with the United States are scheduled to be held in Muscat about 10 a.m. Friday. I'm grateful to our Omani brothers for making all necessary arrangements.
Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has confirmed that Tehran and Washington are set to hold talks on Iran's nuclear program in the Omani capital, Muscat, on Friday around 10 a.m. local time. And this comes as earlier reports suggested that Actually, the anticipated meeting was faltering amid disagreements over the structure and framework and location of the talks. Well, on Tuesday, Iran's President Masoud Pezeshkian had written on social media that Actually, he had instructed the foreign minister to pursue fair and equitable negotiations with Washington, away from threats or intimidations. Well, this comes as the United States has also confirmed that it will take part in the high-level talks with Tehran, and also, you know, that mediators from Qatar, Turkey, and Egypt have already presented Tehran and Washington with a couple of proposals to discuss during the talks. And this comes as U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio said that the United States and Washington are willing to discuss a wide range of concerns beyond Iran's nuclear program during the talks, among them the Tehran's missile program, and also its support for what they call proxies and militant groups, and also treatment of its own people. Now let's take a listen to Marco Rubio on this.
The Iranian people and the Iranian regime are very unalike. In essence, what the Iranian people want, this is a culture with a deep history. These are people that are the leadership of Iran at the clerical level does not reflect the people of Iran. I know of no other country where there's a bigger difference between the people that lead the country and the people who live there. But as far as the talks are concerned, you know, I think the Iranians had agreed to a certain format.
Well, Washington has for long been pushing Tehran for a deal which would require the country to abandon its enrichment of uranium on its soil and also to cease its what they call support for proxies and regional militant groups and also to cap its missiles stockpiles. These are the terms and conditions that Iran has categorically and has always rejected, saying that this is not a fair negotiation and this is just dictation of the U.S. Demands on Iran, and that any kind of negotiations should be based on a win-win situation and based on mutual respect and mutual interests. This comes as Iranian media have also reported that the main focus of the Friday talks in Oman between the two sides will be exclusively on Iran's nuclear program and also lifting of the sanctions. This comes as Moscow has also voiced its willingness to take what remains of Iran's enriched materials to outside the country. Of course, at the same time, Moscow has stressed that it is the full right of Iran to decide whether it likes to transfer its enriched materials to outside the country or keep it on its soil or export it. So it's up to Iran based on the Non-Proliferation Treaty and all its legal rights. Well, this comes as also U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance saying that U.S. President is having actually all options on the table, but U.S. President Donald Trump tries to reach its objectives through non-military means. For now, let's take a listen.
What the president is going to do is, he is going to keep his options open, he is going to talk to everybody. He is going to try to accomplish what he can through non-military means. And if he feels like the military is the only option, then he is also going to choose that option. Obviously, even if I knew what we were going to do, I would not tell you.
Well, this is not the first time that Tehran and Washington are having talks to revive diplomacy in order to avert any confrontation. Well, you know that both nations have severed ties back in 1980, and since then they did not have any direct diplomatic channels to communicate. Now, of course, Iranians all well remember, and also the whole world, our international audience, that back in 2025 in June, while Iran and Washington were in the middle of negotiations, and the fifth round of talks had been held between the two sides when Israel attacked Iran on June 13th, and later the United States joined in and bombed Iran's three nuclear sites, including Natanz, Fordo, and Isfahan. And this has made Iranians be very much doubtful of the sincerity of the U.S. administration for the talks. Now, as the tensions are running high and with the potential negotiations due to take place in Oman, in the capital Muscat, still tensions are running high, and these tensions will keep uncertainties high as well. Of course, we have to wait and see what will come out of the potential talks between the two sides, whether a kind of tangible progress will be made, or that will lead to another stalled moment in the broken dialogue and will lead to a renewed confrontation between Tehran and Washington.
Well, those are the latest developments this hour on RT India. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.